Tim and Sid. Time for Tim and Sid. Time for Tim and Sid. Time for Tim and Sid.
Oh, yeah. It's time for real sports talk with Tim McAuliffe and Sid Sexero.
Muchas gracias, Sheepdogs. Back here for another half hour on this edition of Tim and Sid. Plays of the week still on the way. We begin this hour with the game of ice hockey. Brian Burke will join us in studio momentarily. Got plenty to talk about around the NHL, especially what is going on in the Pacific Division, the division he used to call home.
Owned by Canada right now.
A couple different times.
That's the math of it. Flames, Canucks, Oilers, 1, 2, 3 in the division as of this moment.
Right.
Coinciding,
Subject to change.
Yeah, subject to change.
Subject
yes.
to change, yeah.
Coinciding with disappointing starts for Vegas and the Kings. By the way, the Kings fired Coach John Stevens over the weekend.
Yeah.
Willie Desjardins taken over, in case you didn't hear. The Oilers are the only one of the top three in action tonight. They will try and move atop the division with a win in Washington against Ovi and the Caps. Oilers are also looking for their first 6-game road winning streak, as Tim explained a few moments ago. First 6-game road winning streak since 86-87.
Crazy.
See the game on Sportsnet West tonight as part of our packed schedule here on Sportsnet to dive through what is a surprisingly and refreshingly interesting Canadian hockey scene right now. Is Brian Burke of Hockey Night in Canada, Wednesday Night Hockey. Those are the titles. You're a big shooter. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, but that'll work.
That'll work. It's overall better than us.
Yeah.
Does that work too?
Yeah.
Chairs of boards and stuff like that.
Before we get into the hockey, you bear witness to Floyd Mayweather not that long ago. Is that correct?
Yep.
You were at the last Triple G Canelo fight.
Yep. My first title fight.
All right. And
He was there, and he didn't look broke.
breaking news.
It didn't look
According to Brian Burke, Floyd Mayweather did not look broke. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you for the details because we're a family show.
Honestly, though, like if you could burn through $1 billion, like forget Brewster's millions, we're on to billions. Like you would have to be a talented soul to be able to burn through $1 billion.
Yeah, and I think there's usually rumors about people like that where they're selling homes and doing things. So I've never heard that. I don't profess to have any inside knowledge about it or any real interest.
Nor do we expect it. We're just asking you. It's kind of a loose conversation. No, just because I find it interesting that you actually saw the man in action and he was he didn't look broke. All right.
He was at those boxing matches here in Toronto at the ACC.
Oh yeah, it's part of the promotion.
There were 2 draws in there.
Yeah.
No, that was nothing wrong with that. 2 draws on one card. That's really common.
It actually had a decent card. The results weren't exactly. All right,
I'd recommend it for people who have trouble sleeping.
Over to hockey. A few Canadian markets are having trouble sleeping. Everyone's sleeping pretty good right now. Let's. Do we start out west? We should start out west with what's going on out there.
Without a doubt.
Elias Pettersson is. What's the ceiling on this kid? Should we temper it? Should we relax? Because I am jacked about what I'm seeing.
Well, I think it's no. There's no. I wouldn't put a ceiling on this kid. The only ceiling would be he's tiny. You know, he's tiny. I mean, they got a car seat on the bus for this kid, right? So this the risk of injury, he's already been injured once. The risk of injury is there, but it's astonishing what he's doing. He's setting up goals like this. The bank pass he made for Brock Besser's second goal. I mean, that's Sedin stuff. That's stuff guys do after they've been in the league 5 years. So he's got breakaway speed. He actually pulls away on his breakaways. He's distributing the puck well. He's got an unbelievable release. So no, I don't think there's a ceiling other than he's in a league full of big men, and he's not a big man.
Would you, and maybe we already know the answer to this, but Sixero was saying it earlier, and I agree with him. If I'm Jim Benning, if I'm Travis Green, I make sure there's someone riding shotgun somewhere along that lineup. Would you worry about other teams starting to get really physical with him?
Well, I texted Jim Benji. We call him Benji. Jim Benning played for me back when I was an assistant GM. So I go way back with him. He's a good guy. And I texted with him about it yesterday because we were going to talk about it on TV. And he said, you know, they signed Roussel. They've got Schaller's a big kid. He thinks by committee they can do it. And, you know, other than there's only 1 or 2 guys in the league, true heavyweights, that skate well enough to play in today's game. That's Wilson, maybe Reeves. I mean, you know, so I think he thinks we'll do it by committee and see how it goes. I always had a very different theory. I've told Brad Treliving this with regard to Johnny Gaudreau. I don't think there's any reason to go to a gunfight with a knife. Just bring the gun.
Right.
So we dress toughness every night. and my stars got looked after, and never nervous, never got beat up, never got hit hard, and we didn't look to the NHL in New York to solve our problems. We solved them.
Right.
But that's the key. You just said it though, right? Like Schuller's big, but he can also he's got a little touch to him.
Yeah.
Like you can't just have that guy who's one-dimensional anymore, and that's the conundrum teams are in.
Yeah, but I think if you have a good enough player, you can't have that guy. So you're playing with 11 forwards instead of 12, right? And the 12th guy is a big guy who can really fight, and you say, okay, I'm playing with 11 forwards instead of 12. Well, guess what the 11 other forwards think about that? A, their ice time goes up, so they're happy, and B, they feel safe. So they're really happy, and they're actually braver. So I still see a place for that guy.
Speaking of elite-level superstars, Connor McDavid is playing some pretty damn good hockey, and the Oilers are in turn putting up some points over the last little while. Since the 0-2 start, they're 8-2-1. Are we seeing them back to where they were 2 years ago, or are we a little hesitant on saying that they're back?
Well, I think the difference is 2 years ago when they had that great year, Talbot was otherworldly. You know, like he played like a Vezina Trophy candidate. And I think he carried them way farther than they deserved to get. I see that this year I don't think he can do that again. I don't think he can be superhuman for 82 games. But they're getting some committee goaltending too. So I don't see any reason they can't stay in the hunt with that team. I think Connor McDavid, the aggravating thing about playing the Edmonton Oilers, and I worked in Calgary, so you hate teams like that right away. Like you move to Toronto, you start working there, you hate Montreal in a matter of minutes.
Right.
So I hated playing Edmonton. The best part of leaving there is I don't have to watch Connor McDavid tear my team apart. But he's a great player and he's a good kid. You can outplay the Edmonton Oilers for 58 minutes and lose. And there's not many teams like that. But that's how good this kid is all by himself. And then they got other good pieces. Nugent Hopkins a good player. You know, Luch is still a good player. He's having a good year. Whether their defense can hold up if it gets banged up, I don't know.
Right.
The other Alberta team, who recently got embarrassed and have looked like a completely different team since. Who gets the most credit for what's going on in Calgary over the last week?
Well, I mean, the coach should always get the most credit because he gets the most heat, right? So if they'd lost their last four, they'd be blowtorching Peters and saying we got to look and see who's available and so on. The GM did a good job there and real high risk because he's playing with three defensemen, 22 years old and younger, and Valimaki, Rasmus Andersson, and Noah Hannafin. So he's got three guys 22 or younger. That usually is followed by a train wreck. But they look confident, especially Anderson got a hold of it first, I think, then Hannafin, and now Valimaki looks calm and confident. They put in a couple new forwards, so they had the most change of anyone in the West except St. Louis. So I'm not surprised it took a little bit of time for them to mesh, but they're playing really well, and really Lindholm is carrying them. You know, like he's killing penalties, power play, takes face-offs, big body, 208 pounds. I really like this player. And again, when you're in the West, we didn't see him that much. You don't see Lindholm that much. Now you see him and you're like, Jesus Murphy, this guy's a good player.
In Carolina, you don't see a lot of those guys much, with all due respect to what's going on down there.
With the broadcast deals and even though they're having a hell of a year for their credit. They're playing great hockey, but they stumble a bit now. But they've had a great start, and yet you still don't see or hear much of them. They're not on national broadcasts very often. NBC doesn't like them. It's a small market, so.
The position that he's playing on that first line surprised us a little. We had James Neal on the show as soon as he signed the deal with Calgary, and he was talking about playing on that first line. Are you surprised? And obviously Bill Peters has been rewarded by putting Lindholm on that first line because he leads them in goals and has been unbelievable. But are you surprised at where James Neal is playing in this lineup?
I'm surprised he's not playing on the second unit. But Michael Frolik's had the best start of his career. I think he's got 5 goals already. Two of them are empty net, but that line's been together for a couple years, and they like that line. But I thought he'd knock Fro off that line. That's what my prediction was. He's had a poor start, James Neal. I talked to him briefly in Buffalo before the game, and I said, you got to get it going here. He said, I will. And I'm not taking any credit for this. It's not like I said, hey, I talked to him, and now he's all straight out. But I thought he was much better in Buffalo. He's been much better since. I mean, I think now they're seeing big guy make plays, likes to hit. What I like about him is he's a really good late hitter. Like, this is a guy, if he sees you in a vulnerable position, he'll take it. He'll take that hit. And that makes guys nervous. that makes people really nervous. And he's a big man, and I think he's a key if they're going to keep playing at this level. I really do.
Right.
Riley or that clip of Neal? Your call.
I wouldn't mind getting Brian's take on the clip of Neal.
So-
I don't know what to make of it.
All right, so I noticed this the comeback against Colorado last Thursday. So the Flames are now up 6-4. Empty net. Mike Smith's feeling like $1 million. He's going to the bench. James Neal comes over, and Mike thinks this is a pleasant conversation. Neal is as serious as a heart attack and involved around playing and icing. And you can read Mike Smith's mouth here coming up in a second. I didn't know it was icing. I didn't know it was icing. So James Neal's team down, I believe it was 4-1, are now up 6-4.
Right, battle back.
And he has a right go at Mike Smith in the middle of there's an intensity level with him that I don't think people really appreciate. What about James Neal do we not know about?
Well, I don't know him well. It's funny. I talked to him the other day. Like I said, I don't know him well. I've always liked him as a player. And I know they were unhappy in Vegas when management let him go. I know the coaching staff was unhappy. But Mike Smith is one intense guy. You talk to Mike Smith the wrong way at the wrong time. I'm amazed they didn't fight right there watching this. I hadn't seen this highlight. I wouldn't have been surprised if Smitty didn't drop his gloves and fight him right there on the bench.
Right.
So you're talking two intense guys, two guys that want to win. But I will tell you, on successful teams, you don't see those types of things. Like, if that happens again in 3 weeks, they'll do it in the dressing room, right?
Yeah.
So, in my mind, the one mistake I'd say to James Neal, feel free to say whatever you want to the goaltender. But that's how good teams get better. They talk about this. Says, hey, what were you thinking? But don't do it on camera. And it was during a TV timeout. I'm sure he thought, well, no one's filming this.
Right.
But guess what? They film everything.
Sorry, my apologies. That wasn't, because I saw it at home.
Right.
So that was during play. So there was a timeout in the arena.
There was a timeout, but they
There was
didn't
a
go to
timeout.
commercial.
James may have thought it was a TV timeout, to
Yeah.
be fair to you. But that was on the broadcast just for the full context of it. But that blew my mind. I mean, you're up 6-4.
But like, listen, let's be honest here. And you've been in this way more than we've been in it. But one of my favorite quotes is, "The gem cannot be polished without friction."
Correct. Yeah.
Like, when you're in the NHL and you're at that level, sometimes you have to learn how to do that, don't you?
Well, not just that. Successful teams do it, but they do it privately. Right. But there are heated arguments in dressing rooms. There are heated arguments with guys driving to practice together.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
The guy driving to practice say, what were you thinking last night? You went out and played that icing, cost us a face-off down the other end. Wake up, pay attention.
Right.
And, of course, the goalie would say, well, I think it was icing. But there are fist fights that come out of these things. But good teams have those conversations. That's how they get better.
Right. And then they go back to work.
We don't have any time, do we, Dobbs? We have
We'll bring up Morgan Riley next time you come on, because he's had an
18 points, 14
start.
games.
Yeah,
It's kind of a good start.
Great kid, too.
Yeah, you saw that. A few people saw that coming. Brian, always appreciate you coming by.
Thanks, guys.
And next time you see Floyd Mayweather not look broke, let us know.
I got news for you. Do you think $2,000 on lottery tickets is a lot of money? It ain't a lot of money to
I think
Floyd Mayweather.
$5 on lottery tickets are a lot of
But
money.
a billionaire buying a lot of... Anyways.